Hey, it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today, focusing in on the self-reproach. Self-reproach, which means the constant feeling of responsibility for the wrongs in a covert, overt, or psychopathic relationship. Realize that the character disordered cluster B personalities is defined by the DSM-5R Diagnostic Statistical Manual utilized by mental health professionals takes a look at several different personality traits, characteristics, and tactics as defined by a character disordered person are specifically a heightened and excessive self-importance and coupled with a lack of empathy. So someone who is very self-interested to the devoid of others. And we have, on the spectrum, we have the narcissistic and then, the sociopathic and the psychopathy at when we get in more profound cases. And realize that in psychopathy, the individual really does lack a conscience. They have a very slowing of brain activity that relates to the emotional centers in the brain that regulate ethics, impulse control, morality, and that typically would have them perceive morality and really an attachment or a connection to humankind, if you will. And so because of this slowed activity in the brain, they will enter into a room, they will enter into a relationship, they will enter into a organization and feel very alone and detached and disconnected and have no sense of responsibility and accountability to others in terms of what they are there to do. They will, and they're very well aware of this void within their personality. So when we say that they lack conscience, they lack emotional connection, they lack love, they do not vibrate on that emotional range at all. In fact, they don't have the ability to feel that, to express that, or and then combined with an impulse control, which means they don't, with this slowing of activity in their brain, they are very prone to partake in activities that would be in strict violation of human ethics, human integrity, laws, rules, regulations. They just overstep these and they walk through these with no concern. And they learn to, I would say, stop and, they mimic others. They're able to see, how others might react if they were to do something wrong. And then they learn these things and they mimic them. So that's what makes it so hideous, is that they're putting on a complete mimicry of human emotions, especially when it comes to human relationships and roles at their employer. So it's a very serious situation, especially if they have you in their grips, because they have sussed you out to a degree that they're exhibiting a power, dominance, and control over you, and it's to the end degree of their own satisfaction. So their own delight, their own jollies, but usually it's designed then to overthrow you, undermine you, and really exasperate your situation. So when we talk about the feeling of empathy and the void of empathy, the the other person in the relationship feeling a heightened sense of responsibility or accountability in the relationship, we see this at all levels of the relationship with these individuals. And again, each situation is unique. Each person who is involved with them is unique, but there are really indelible and specific patterns that we see. And that is the lack of empathy. And I think that is what's most confusing, because most people do not feel heard, acknowledged, or reciprocated. They don't feel a reciprocity, a feeling that they understand them, where they're coming from. And so because they have invested so much with this person or have such a history, they have almost this habituated obsessive need to feel like they want to have closure. They want to be able to have them understand all the grave wrongs that they have committed against them. they feel like they want to shout it out. They want to get it out of their system. They want to confront them. They want to at least let them know that this is, what you did to me cannot be stood for. I will not tolerate this. No human should tolerate this. I'm here to serve you a big lesson. And they feel like they have to educate this, covert narcissist, this covert psychopath, this overt, narcissist with this, education on how you should, treat people. But realize that it's going to fall on deaf ears, because when we say a lack of empathy or a deficit of empathy, it is literally trying to give a visual map to a blind person. It's like trying to speak out the directions to somebody who cannot hear. They do not have an ability, really, if they're a true narcissist, and a psychopath most definitely do not have an ability to feel empathy, which means to feel where you're coming from, understand where you're coming from. There's a real deficit, which means a real void, a real non-existence. It's just not there. They just don't have empathy. And so because of this void, it creates a need and a propensity and almost an obsession in the other person to become ultra responsible for the feelings and the ongoings in the relationship. So it can become very indelible, and I find it's very hard and difficult for people to acknowledge this and let this go. And so, it's in essence then, it becomes a feeling like, you're always in their way. You constantly feel like you have to, get this in front of them or get this out. And if you feel like you're always in their way, it's because they're just not tuned into this experience in a relationship. They just don't have the ability. And so, realize this and acknowledge it and accept it. And you might want to, sometimes it's difficult to perceive this. You don't want to perceive this. You don't want to accept this, and that is really, when we talk about working through relationships and kind of, plowing through it, there is that stage of denial where I don't want this to occur. This is a good person. We had all these great times and this was magical, and why shouldn't this work? And then the questions can, pursue, why? And it's me. And then you tend to turn it in on yourself as a fault of yourself. In over responsibility of yourself, but you're taking on responsibility to have someone understand and change in a way that they are not able. So it's in essence, it's a self-reproach, where you turn it on yourself and blame yourself for their inadequacies, which means you're taking on too much of the issues in the relationship, which cannot be resolved. I mean, it becomes a true exercise of futility. So, and until I find that, someone really, really understands this, that they're really then able to let it go. Either they see something this person has done, it just finally soaks in, or they finally have, spent, years in this zone of really trying to, not being able to let go, that they finally realize that, years have passed, nothing has changed, and they realize, man, I've got to, something is now created in me that I have to really be able to move on. And that is, the acknowledging that there are shortcomings in these types of people, and it's nothing wrong with you. I mean, you can continue to try to resolve it for them, but it's not going to take place because it is a disordered individual. It is a true character deficit that is created within the mechanisms of the mind itself, of the brain itself. And that's the origin of a lot of these personalities. So it's very difficult from a physical disability. It is almost like a personality disability, if you will, even though there can be quite high functioning in society because of this. They're able to be great communicators in isolated areas, but it doesn't mean that they are going to be there for you in relationship material. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.